First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming here today, thank the media for being here, and thank all of our members, either of the council or individuals that are running for the council or town committee members for being present today. I think it's very important that we talk about this. The Common Council members that have been walking throughout the city have been taking a petition around with them. And basically what the petition says is that a tax deferral was given to BRT, a 7-year tax deferral for their development of this building and another piece of property which they are supposed to develop also. They're getting a 7-year tax deferral for residential property. And this has never happened in the history of Danbury, so it's quite upsetting to most of the residents in the city of Danbury. And basically the petition said, return fiscal responsibility to City Hall, repeal the tax deferral for BRT student apartments located at 30 Crosby Street in Danbury. I specifically want to say this has nothing to do with any of the students in renting these rooms. It is not part of WestCon. What it is an apartment building that was built that's being used for the students that are attending WestCon. And we're very happy for that situation, but we are not happy with the tax deferral. Mark Boughton and the Republican-controlled Common Council have ignored the opposition of this tax giveaway, and the ad hoc committee appointed to consider repeal has been delaying any resolution of this issue. I have the signatures of hundreds of Danbury taxpayers who demand an answer from their elected officials and want a decision from the Republican-controlled ad hoc committee so the entire council can move forward with the repeal. This is the first time in the city's history that a tax deferral was offered for any residential development. There is no benefit to the city or its residents that would justify such a windfall to a single corporate real estate condominium developer, especially recognizing BRT went back on its word regarding the marketing of these apartments on Crosby Street. I have a quote from Tom Sadi also. He'll probably contact you. He's demanding repeal, especially in light of the developers' bait-and-switch change in use. BRT originally attempted to justify the tax abatement for its Crosby Street project by claiming it would bring young professionals to downtown Danbury and have an overall positive impact on economic development and revenue for the city. However, this is an unprecedented use of a tax deferral. In contrast, tax deferrals for the recruitment, retention, and expansion of Sendent Mobility, Cardis, Belimo, GE Capital, Mankind Pharmaceutical provide quality jobs and produce a significant economic benefit for the city of Danbury. There are no jobs created, no additional businesses started, and no benefit that warrants a multi-million-dollar giveaway of both tax dollars and reduced hookup fees for sewer and water. Homeowners in my neighborhood and in Lynn's neighborhood and all of our neighborhoods, such as Jackson Drive, Woodbury Drive, and Hawley Road, had to pay full freight for their water and sewer hookups. So why couldn't they get a sweetheart deal like BRT? The original plan for this project was thrown out the window. Now, this project has no resemblance to the plan that was approved by the previous Common Council. As a city, we cannot afford these tax giveaways for residential developers. As a Democrat and as a former council member, and all of us, we believe that this ad hoc committee has to meet to resolve this issue, and they will push for repeal. And if I'm in office, we will deal with this situation also. I know that Mayor Mark will probably say that we do have a development that the Democrats years ago gave a tax repeal to, but in fact that's not true, and it's Liberty Terrace. Liberty Terrace was part of a redevelopment project. And what they did was, there was zero value to that piece of property, and because it was zero value, they sold it for $1 to Davon. And the agreement was that they had to build that building in a certain manner within a certain time prescribed by the city of Danbury. And so we had no value on that piece of property. We were not receiving any taxes on that property. So in turn, we sold that property for $1. And they immediately began paying taxes to the city of Danbury, and it was put back on the tax rolls. That, to me, is important, and it's smart movement within the city of Danbury. So it was not a tax deferral. There was no value on that property, and we definitely wanted to develop that area for redevelopment. So things of that nature are critical to our community, and we need to start doing what we did before, give tax deferrals to entice businesses to come back to Danbury.
Can I throw in 2 cents?
Go right ahead.
There's a lot of confusion among the public about the use of the word deferral. People may think about their student loan and it's deferred, payments on it is deferred until you graduate. Or if you lose your job, you can get a deferral. BRT is not going to pay taxes on this property for 7 years. They're not deferring their taxes. It's a free ride, and we need to understand that. The word deferral is not appropriate in this situation. So we need to straighten that out. The other thing is that the 7 Democratic members of the council asked for an ad hoc committee to rescind the abatement on this property.
Several months ago.
Several months ago. The chair of that committee is Bob Riley. We have, and both the chair and the mayor are ignoring taxpayers' opposition to this project. They're not listening, so we have petitions for them. And we want that committee to meet, and we want an up or down vote on taking away this 7-year giveaway for Danny Bertrand.
Let's say, I'm sorry. You know, I don't think most people are aware of the fact that that ordinance also allows anywhere from 0 to 100% tax abatement. It's not a deferral, because a deferral would, you'd consider it at a later date, you're going to pay it back. But that, along with the time span of 7 years, is also an option that the council could have used if they felt necessary. I was at a meeting the other night where the mayor was addressing the concerns of the volunteer firemen, and their concerns were why he didn't feel that it was important enough to give them a tax concession of $1,000 a year for their services rendered to the city, and that he felt it was more important to pursue something like a tax abatement to a private developer. So we don't see any of the residents banging on doors. I haven't seen anybody who is unwilling in a bipartisan way to sign this petition opposed to and in favor of repeal of such a thing.
Yeah.
How many signatures do you have?
There's hundreds. We haven't even counted them, but there are hundreds of signatures. We can give you a copy of all of the signatures. I have some here with me, but there are hundreds of signatures. Any door that the council members, the individuals that are running for office knocked on, people were more than happy to sign that because it really upset them because of the fact that everyone pays taxes. I pay a lot of taxes. The residents of Danbury pay a lot of taxes. Everyone that's here with me are paying taxes to the city of Danbury, and it is not fair that someone can make a development of this type, change what the purpose of this development was, and still not pay taxes on this piece of property for the next 7 years. We calculate that with what he's charging for the rooms per bed, it's calculated to be about $2.4 million that's coming in to BRT. And in fact, the only thing he's paying taxes on is the land itself, which is approximately $24,000 a year. So I think that's a great deal.
Eugene, you might want to call Eleanor Penarola on Griffin Avenue. She's in her 80s. She called me about this giveaway. She said, Lynn, nobody asked us an opinion about this. I'd rather see the city buy open space and preserve open space than give a tax break to a residential developer like Danny Bertrand. She's in her 80s. She's lived here all her life.
Okay. But also another important point is we have to remember that this building is being monitored and taken care of by the Danbury Police. It is not part of WestCon. It's a building that stands on its own that the taxpayers are basically taking care of. If there's a situation that's occurring over here, the Danbury Police are called. So, and I know that the police have been here quite a bit with regards to some concerns over here. So, I mean, it was a situation that I don't think was evaluated properly when the tax abatement was given to them. So it's something that truly has to be addressed. And the council has to meet on this. That ad hoc committee needs to meet and come to some type of a resolution presented to the council so that they can vote on it. And as Warren stated, I had mentioned at the volunteer fire event that there is also a tax abatement for the volunteer firefighters that's been outstanding, that has not been called and not been heard. And to date, it still hasn't been heard, and they don't have a decision from the council. And it seems like there's a certain convenience not to call certain meetings and make certain decisions within the council itself.
We will.
That's what I'm worried about.
Actually, there's a nice stream over there. Enough water to float them away, though.
In terms of, all right, let's say, I think in the past, I was looking through some archive articles, and one thing they said was, hey, we wanted to do this kind of a yuppie bill, for lack of a better word, and it was going to bring, there's going to be a Starbucks and all.
Right.
But the housing market changed, and they're saying, well, we couldn't do that, and this works here now, and it was either this or you'd have a big empty lot here, and that this is bringing people downtown, it's bringing foot traffic between here and WestCon, and that it's a good thing, and that a tax deferral or abatement or giving them a break on taxes was a way to convince them to do this.
Well, let me just. That's like saying, you expect the city to reduce my taxes because the real estate values are going down. Am I going to get a break? Why does Bertram get a break? So he's not economically hurt because the real estate market fell apart. If any citizen in this city tried to get an abatement or a reduction in their taxes because our homes have all gone down, that's going to happen. So why is he special?
For the record, he's not being hurt here. This WestCon rental income is about 20 to 22% over and above what the street value would be if he rented to families. He's already making well above what he would if this were originally built for what it should have been. And the original purpose in the tax abatement was a good idea and a good thing to do.
And that was
not for WestCon.
I think the preamble to that tax abatement ordinance and the state statutes that authorizes municipalities to do it is self-explanatory. And this was not a blighted area.
No, it was
needed
not.
to be reclaimed, so therefore you were forced into a situation where you had to have something happen. It was an area that was not blighted, in plain common talk, really, when you get to college kids, I sent 2 kids to college, and they pass the hat when they have to buy a pizza. So I don't see where this is going to be any driving engine to the economy downtown here.
It'll help the bars a lot.
Well,
that's about it.
Like I say, they cover the cover charge and they get in there, and some of the owners of even the restaurants over here don't really like it because they drool over one beer all night because that's all they can afford.
There's one thing I'd like to add to that as well. I asked the mayor this very question when he was on public access TV about how he could allow a tax abatement and still allow all this overdevelopment that we have. His answer to me on public access TV was they considered this a contaminated site. In the height of the real estate market, nobody would purchase it. Upon hearing that, I went down and found out who the environmental engineer was who did the cleanup there, are the same ones that are doing the cleanup over at Kennedy Place. I then questioned them about this site. They said, yes, we did the environmental cleanup over here. I said, was it a contaminated site? They said, absolutely not. So for the mayor to tell me on public access TV that we are lucky to have this because it was a contaminated site is a bold-faced lie.
Okay. Just one follow-up question.
Can you have one follow-up answer?
Yes, of course.
The deferral was because of the increased economic activity you would have downtown. You were going to have economic development here. The only economic development that's going on is in Danny Bertram's bank accounts.
Yeah, if I can add, I haven't run the numbers, but if you look at the premium he's getting for the housing now as student housing, it's probably more at the end of the year in his pocket than he would have had he rented it to families and gotten the tax abatement. So if we took the tax abatement away, he'd still be making more than he would have had he rented to yuppie so-called housing at regular market rates. So he's now making twice as much. He's getting the abatement, and he's also getting the premium for the WestCon students. And let me just say this. This council is not interested in slamming the door on business in Danbury. No. We are not anti-business. We are pro-business. The door is open for business in Danbury, but it has to remain open for square business in Danbury.
This is not against Bertram.
This
is against the administration.
If a developer, factory owner, if a company wants to come to Danbury, we will be more than willing to listen to their proposal and work with them. But we expect them to honor their proposal.
The interesting thing about this development is that it started by saying we got overdevelopment going on, and I freeze everything for 60 days. Then the next thing we have an announcement that one developer is picked to do all this development. It wasn't put out the bid. I don't think there was anything logical about it, and it didn't turn out well. You know, so this is the type of thing that I'm concerned about, is the way this went about, and the public is very much concerned with overdevelopment.
You also see this occasionally with zone. The developer will come in and ask for a zone change tied to a specific project, but a zone change goes with the land, planning goes with the project. The developer then sells the project, pulls out of it, and a different project is built, a project that wasn't planned for, and it could lead to hard feelings. It's difficult to make plans, public policy for the future, if the developer doesn't do what he says he's going to do. So while Danbury is pro-development, we are pro-business, it has to be done through the council, through the mayor's office. It has to be done in a public forum. And when the decisions are finally made, the developers need to stick to that decision. That's what we're saying. They've got to keep their word.
I'd imagine if, let's say, this all happened, that you guys managed to repeal that tax abatement right away. Is there any concern that it was approved, it went through the process?
It was approved, but Mr. Bertram changed the use. It was approved for market rate housing.
I don't think a lawsuit is inevitable. I don't think a lawsuit would be expensive for all parties involved. I'm not sure the lawsuit is necessary. That there's other ways of dealing with this situation.
Yes,
but at some point in time, you have to say to developers, look, you deal with Danbury, you stick to your word. That's what you have to do. And we have to show the developers, we've got to show the business community that we welcome them, but we welcome them on the proper terms.
And also there's another problem. Because of the change in the type of building this became, we have a serious problem with parking. And I know that it's been a serious concern because a lot of students are getting their cars towed. And the parents have been calling the school, but the school has nothing to do with this building itself. And so it's a serious problem. And at one point, Westcon was desperately trying to buy this piece of property to build a dorm. And if they had built it themselves, it would have been better because it would have been under the auspice of Westcon itself. Thank you.
Westcon is a wonderful asset for Danbury.
Yes, it is.
There is no one in government in Danbury that has any animosity towards Westcon. We love Westcon, and we hope that it continues to grow and thrive in a controlled atmosphere.
No. The first ad hoc meeting, actually, for the members that were there, and I was sitting watching the meeting, I was shocked watching that meeting. That meeting was for the purpose of Mr. Bertram showing a video of, yes, a PowerPoint presentation of the building itself, what they proposed, and what was happening on this property. And he gave out little packages of what the cost was going to be and what the package entailed for students that wanted to move in to this building itself.
And that was the ad hoc committee to consider repeal. It wasn't show and tell.
Yeah, it wasn't an informational program for Mr. Bertram, and while that's fine, we need as much information as we can get. What was disconcerting was that after his PowerPoint presentation, which is unusual in itself in an ad hoc, members of the committee were not allowed to ask questions, or at least to ask questions in detail. Fred Visconti was on the committee, on the ad hoc committee, was cut off after one or two questions. I think Mr. Bertram spoke for 15 or 20 minutes. I don't think Fred Visconti was actually on the committee, not ex officio, but on the committee, seated on the committee. I don't think he was able to speak for more than a minute and a half or 2 minutes. Highly unusual.
You know, in reference to that lawsuit, the idea that Danbury is going to be sued, we shouldn't create public policy based on the potential lawsuits. We're a very litigious society, and we're always subject to that. We should do what's right for the public.
Yeah, I think if you remember too, some years ago, we had the problems downtown with the pre-skating rink building that was started under Jimmy Dyer. You know, they sued the city of Danbury and they got nothing.
We got $11 million back.
You got
Yes.
$11 million back.
Yes.
Because they had breached the contract, right?
The Aricati slab.
The Aricati slab, right.
No, that's why we're asking for that meeting to
There
meet.
was even supposed to
that
be,
committee
there was
to
supposed
meet.
be an informational tour in September before the building was open. I'm on the council. I wasn't invited. I don't know if anybody else was. I don't think that tour even happened.
We don't know. That's what we're asking them to call that meeting so that they can finalize that meeting, send the report to the Common Council so the Common Council can make a decision as to how they're going to handle this situation.
The chair of a committee determines the schedule. No one from the Democratic caucus is the chair of that committee, so you can't.
Mr. Riley.
Republican, yeah. I don't know the figure on that premium, and I can't state this unequivocally, but my guess is, because I do a little property management, my guess is that it's probably north of 25% compared to market value. And the tax abatement is, I think, 1.1 million over 7 years, so you could divide 1.1 million by 7, multiply the 180 units, add the 25%, and try to figure out if they're actually making more without a tax abatement than they would have keeping it regular housing with a tax abatement. I don't think, at the end of the day, if the tax abatement was removed, Mr. Bertram would make any less money than he would have under the original proposal. And if this building was built because of that tax break and that profit level, he would be just about where he is now. Everybody would be happy. You want to put college housing downtown, talk to us about that. We'll probably be able to work something out. Just tell us in advance. Let us work with you on that.
No. No. Yes. Yes. The Danbury police are called down here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.